I think most women suffer some kind of bladder control problems. You know what I mean? When trampolining and all. Oops. But when we're talking, you know the one. But we're talking about women who it really seriously affects their lives, who
Well,
become
I think even
very
that can
incontinent.
seriously affect. I think that we've learnt, and very much here, it's like you get a group of women together on a night out, and they've all had babies, and every time we all laugh, everybody crosses their legs, and it's become something that we can laugh about up to that point. But I think that it can go a lot deeper than that. And I remember in my antenatal classes being in that pink cloud of, oh, I'm pregnant, and they would say this incontinence word and pelvic floor, and I thought I had this image that the only people that have incontinence are elderly people shuffling along. That's not the case. You know,
So they didn't tell you about it?
Yeah, but I didn't really kick it in enough. And the thing is, I didn't do my pelvic floor exercise, and I have suffered from, I don't want to say suffered, but dealt with incontinence. And it's deeply unsexy. Let's face it. I think that's why we don't talk about it.
I could never understand why we always had blue dye in a period, as if, you know, when you had a period, it would come out blue. When we talk about periods, we put on the special period voice, don't we? The quiet voice. And if you're...
We're all nodding in agreement, aren't we?
All the women in the audience, everybody has nodded about the period voice, because suddenly the period would start and you have to go to another woman who looks sympathetic and you go, have you got something? Yeah. And we've all been in a restaurant and stood up and there's a big stain on the chair. And who can, you know, you've got to say that's the reality of having a period.
We talk a lot about parenthood and we joke about, oh, you don't get a manual for kids, do you? And your friends will talk about the sleepless nights and the nappies and all the things that are tough. But I never saw this bit coming, you know, and I kind of think a bit of a fool for that, to be honest. And, well, what I want to say absolutely is I am blessed. I have had the best parents, the most wonderful parents who I knew I was loved, I love them, and I'm not grudging a second of the time that it takes. But I just think maybe we need to talk about the way we are now. People are living longer. We had our kids later, not you, Stacey, so you've got teenagers, you've got parents who need you, you've got a relationship, you're working. Sometimes it just feels really overwhelming. And I mean, and as I say, I'm lucky. I've got a lot of support. I've got, you know, things that other people don't have. But I just think it's a time that of life that we should maybe face up to and think about.
And also feel that we can turn around and say, I'm struggling to cope with this, or have a break without feeling that immense guilt.
The only reason I feel that it would be a really harsh decision to say that everyone has to 20 weeks is the maximum is because I didn't know I was pregnant till past 20 weeks.
And how old were you then?
And I was 17, and it was something that I really went through the notions of, and my thought process was, can't do it now, I'm too young, must go and have the procedure, and I didn't even think twice about it. I didn't end up having the procedure because of...
So what happened was your mum went with you?
My mum went with me, and there's quite a few steps you go through before anything actually happens. You speak on the phone, then you go in for a consultation, then you speak to a psychologist, I think, and then you go and have a scan. And it was at the point of the scan when it then became a bit too real for me. I could see my mum's face looking at the scan, and she was in tears. You know, the reality hit me, and
Then that's a very different situation, is it? Because you genuinely didn't even know till 20 weeks that you were pregnant.
Is quite. You'd see quite a lot on a scan that you wouldn't see at sort of 6 to 8 weeks.
You really do think that if you hadn't have gone for that routine smear test, you were 27 at the time, that things could have been so much worse for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so important that we do go for these tests. It just shows that, you know, just by missing one, you can, the cells on your cervix can change so quickly. And had I have not gone for my routine test after having...
So that wasn't your first smear test?
No, I was around 27, so I just had my eldest boy, Taylor, who's now 9. And I'd gone for my routine test a year after giving birth to him. And within a week, it had come back that they'd found abnormal cells and that they wanted me to go back in and have a loop biopsy almost immediately.
So what had they found? Precancerous cells?
Yeah, they were precancerous cells. And obviously it was petrifying. You think the worst. And it was around the time that Jade Goody had lost her life to cervical cancer. So that was in the back of my mind, obviously, you know.
And you had two young children.
I had 2 young children, and the worst crossed your mind, and you can't help it but think, I don't want my kids to grow up without a mum.
My family are Jamaican on my dad's side, and, you know, now and again you would see lightning products around the house and things like that. But I think that there is a deep-rooted issue. And
when you say lightening products, what does that mean for
so
your
like
skin?
Skin lightening. I mean, I've never asked, I wouldn't know what it was for, but at times you would definitely see it when you go into some black households, you do see those things. But equally, you know, you go to some households, you see tanning cream. So I think we've got to be very careful how we broach this subject. But I do think that there is a deep-rooted problem, and I think there's a huge responsibility from the media, from me, from us, to represent mixed race people, black people as much as we can, be proud of who we are. And it's very hard for me to say. I'm sitting here with a blonde weave. Do you know what I mean? I've got an afro naturally. So I think it's hard, but I think the only way you can...
So, when you say this, it's difficult for me to say because I'm sitting here. Why is?
Because I find it hard to judge people, for instance, for lightening the skin and things when I myself have afro hair and now it's blonde, and so I feel like generally as people we're never happy with who we are completely.
This is what I am like. This is everything else. People dress us, people put makeup on. I mean, I could skip down there and jump up and down because I'm in my flat boots.
Yeah.
So I'm a completely different person.
Do you feel
really,
different? Because you haven't got the normal sort of, you haven't got telly makeup on.
I haven't got any makeup, I haven't got anything. I look
You look
rough.
beautiful.
But you see, Mark would say...
You don't at all.
Mark would say, this is how he loves you. He said, I don't understand who you are on Loose Women. I don't understand it. He said, you're like a completely different person.
Just turned 16, actually, when I found out I was pregnant. And I just joined my sisters, and we had this... And I was, you know, with my parents being Irish Catholics and all that, I mean, we never talked about... I'd never had a conversation with my mum or my dad about sex or boyfriend, anything. And I actually did... I was 6 weeks pregnant, and I did go ahead and have a termination, but I didn't tell a soul, apart from... who would have been the father of the child, who was fantastic and stayed with me through the whole thing, and it was all my decision, and he was amazing. But it was at that point where, I mean, I had nobody... I mean, my mum and dad both passed away never knowing that I'd done that.
When I do watch certain dramas on TV, if there is a black female, because apparently it's you know, dark black skinned males are you know, they
don't have the same...
They don't have the same, no, it's black
Okay.
females. And, you know, you see a black female on TV and or in a drama or something, and most of the time she's the lighter skinned black woman, which is not a problem, but we all need to be represented. And you've got Phil... that's why I really love Black Panther, because Black Panther, you had a plethora of shades in that, and the most, I'd say, for me personally, the best character in that film was the Dora Milaje. You know, she's this really dark-skinned lady with a bald head, and she's strong, and you know, and for once I was watching a film where I thought, oh my gosh, we're all being represented here, and you've had kids watching it. That's why it's one of the biggest selling Marvel films going, because kids who have never really seen themselves represented, not as a drug dealer, not as an errant father, were seeing themselves as superheroes, and it was wonderful.
I've had great support from the health service. I mean, I self-harm. I bite my hand or I rub my skin until it bleeds. And I started it when my husband died in 2007. And I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but the pain here took away the pain from here. You know, that was... And that it made me feel better. And sometimes now I do it and I don't even know I'm doing it, you know. It's not a nice thing to do. You know, people say, oh, well, you know, you're doing it for attention or whatever. It's not a nice thing.
You don't even know you're doing it.
But
Sometimes
how did it make you feel better? Because you're concentrating just on that pain, and but it's still pain.
And it's still, but it's a different kind of pain. This pain you don't think you can survive.
1 in every 3 women don't go for this test, and this kills nearly 900 people every year. And I just thought, this is crazy. This is a free test that you can have on the NHS. And I just didn't understand why women didn't go for it. So I thought, I'm going to post a picture.
Thing that I read today was that smear tests prevent 75% of cervical cancers, which is just incredible. It's so preventable, and if you just go...
It's got to be caught early, that's the thing.
I think the other thing as well is when they talk about the pelvic floor and they talk about how it's good for, you know, your sex life after as well. And I think the problem is when you're pregnant, you think, I'm never going to have sex again. So you kind of switch off to it. But the thing is, because it's such a taboo and because young people think, well, that won't happen to me, it's so important as women that we do talk about it, because it's not, you don't have to accept it. There's so many different things that you can do, and this is all the NHS tips. Things like lose weight, because if there's more pressure on your pelvic floor, you are more likely to have a weak pelvic floor. You know, drinking plenty of water. Do you know that so many women stop going out? They start to isolate themselves because they're so worried
need to be near
about
the loo.
where the toilets are. So it's so that, you know, like for me, I do Pilates, I do trampolining, which I learnt to do here, thanks to you. I watch my caffeine intake, and you really can. It really can improve.
I don't do any of that, and that's why we constantly.
And we did. I'm an amazing mum dancer. I'm a good listener. There we go. Put it kind of near my ear. I'm a good friend, I think. I do try and be the best possible friend to anyone who needs it. Resilient, because God knows I've had to be. There we are. Stick that on there. And strong and funny, just not necessarily at the same time.
You look very funny now. And I thought I would channel Little Mix a bit, because I found it incredibly hard to do the post-it notes.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd just do it in my towel. So here we go.
body.
Here we go. Here's mine.
Oh, my word.
Here's mine. I've got all my own teeth.
Do you know, I did not know what part of your body that was.
No, I don't remember doing it on my bum.
I thought it was your bum. So that's your chest,
And then that's my chest.
Yeah.
And then the other one was I make great cheese on toast.
You do?